we are almost live. 1 second while I get everything up and running. All right, here we go. All right, guys, get your Red Bull ready. Happy Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, April 9th. This is our live Q&A for this week. We do these calls every single week. I'm testing the times, sometimes they're on Wednesday, sometimes they're on Tuesday. I might move them to Tuesdays permanently, even though Wednesdays seem to be a little bit more full of engagement, because Wednesdays are just a bad day for me to do these Q&As, to be honest. But welcome. If you have any questions, type them in the chat. I'm going to probably try to keep today's call a little bit shorter because I got some other things to do. In the beginning of the month is usually a lot more work for me because I got trying to catch up on everything from last month. While we're waiting on questions to come in, actually, I'm gonna try putting something in the chat. I'm still learning how to use the software, but let me see. Let me know if you guys can see this. All right, cool. I put it in the chat. Here we go. Yeah. All right. That's interesting. Cool. Welcome, guys. Euphoria Barbershop, Joey Blessed Hands, Barber. Welcome. All right, I'm gonna share my screen and then I'll show you guys our community and go through any questions in the community that came up since our last call. So if you guys don't know, I have a free community called the Barber Mastermind. I also have a paid community, but we'll focus on the free one for most of the call today, because I usually do sometimes one-on-one calls inside the paid group to help answer the questions there. So hopefully you guys can see this on Instagram. If you guys are watching on YouTube, then you'll be able to see my whole screen. Instagram, you're only going to be able to see this like small, like vertical thing. Hopefully y'all can still see that. I am. There's a huge delay on Instagram. 1 second. All right. There we go. All right, so I wanted to kind of answer some of the questions that came up recently, and if you guys need any clarification on anything that I talk about, just feel free to type a question in the chat, or you can join the group here, which is free. You can get to it by going to the link in my bio, or you can go to school with a K, school.com/barber-mastermind. Again, 100% free. Now, if you want even more help, then I do have a paid group, but this one's free. All right, so I wanted to start by answering a question that came up here, and hopefully you take my answer the right way. But basically, let me just read this question out loud. So I'd like to address anyone and everyone that came in and gave me their feedback. Much gratitude if you read this. On my license, Master Barber for 17 years. I've been at my location in the Bronx for about 14. I rent the space. The barbershop owner doesn't take pride in his business. Great guy, can be an a-hole, and honestly, the way he conducts his business is not to my liking. But who I am, just to say someone just rents and works the location. I've attempted to leave that location about twice, but the fact that I've been there for so long, people are familiar with me now, makes my living. Unfortunately, the past years, after 2020, I felt responsible creating a marketing strategy that will help grow the business and my clientele. The barber owner doesn't have consistent barbers, so frustrating to promote the barbershop, market my business, and not have a team-oriented environment. Besides that, the owner doesn't keep the clientele. He blasts his music where no one can talk. Ignorance. I don't like where I'm at anymore. I don't like the neighborhood. I don't like the fact that the business has declined. I'm less than 75% booked. Would like to find another location. I'm not with the idea of compensation of 50-50 or 60-40. If the barbershop owner has retention with clientele, consistently growing, location is everything. Basically, just a barbershop owner. Barbershop owners in the Manhattan, like Hell's Kitchen barber, really demanding of what they want from barbers. Be there at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, not a second late. The pressure that they place upon us, they don't understand. All right, so if I'm reading this correctly, and I hope if you're watching this that you take this the right way, because I'm just trying to help because I do this for free. It sounds like you don't like where you are, but you don't want to leave, and you don't want to go work for somewhere that has higher standards. So one thing I will say that I think applies to everybody is if you want something you've never had, then you have to do something you've never done. So that means that you may have to sacrifice something that you've been enjoying to get to the point you're at now in order to get to a new place. So I think that you may want to consider, and this is not just for you, but for anybody that has this mindset, you may want to consider either you got to be okay with the fact that you're going to stay where you are and that you're going to not get along with the owner and things are going to stay the way they are, right? So you have to give up the part of you that wants something different. So that's a sacrifice in part, right? Or you're going to have to sacrifice the fact that you're not willing to move, or you're not willing to go work somewhere that has higher standards. So either way, in order for you to change your situation, some sort of sacrifice has to happen, right? Otherwise, you're just going to continue to be miserable, and you're not going to be happy, and there's nothing I can say or do that will change that. So something has to change on your end, and in a lot of times, in order to get to somewhere new in our career, we have to change something, right? It's just that's the way it works. Like, you're not going to be able to get something new without doing something new. So you have to be okay with either staying where you are and being grateful and trying to work something out with the owner, or you have to be okay with the fact that I need to go somewhere that has higher standards, that knows how to market and knows how to bring me clientele, and that might mean that I need to sacrifice a little bit of my earning potential for that, right? So that I don't have to worry about marketing myself. I can just show up to work and the owner fills my chair. And then that also means that you're going to have standards, right? Or you're going to have to follow their standards, because a lot of barbershop owners have standards because they have found through years. I know this is the case with me. I can't speak for other shop owners, but the case for me is the reason why we have barbers show up at a certain time and do haircuts at a certain time and try to rebook their clients and try to sell product and try to get people and try to retain clients is because I know that that's what makes the barbershop grow. That's what puts more money in the barber's pocket, ultimately. So the barbers that aren't okay with that are basically, in other words, telling me that they don't want to make more, right? Because I don't ask the barbers to do anything that isn't going to directly lead to them making more money. So when you rebook clients, when you sell clients products, when you get them on a membership, when you have good quality haircuts and you're finishing haircuts on time and taking clients back on time, your retention will improve. All of these things end up putting more money in your pocket, and yes, the barbershop owner's pocket as well, but it's because they took all the risk, right? As a barber, you're not really taking any risk besides the risk of it doesn't work out. And then if that's the case, you could always go back to where you left, which is why I always recommend you never burn bridges. Always leave your barbershop on good terms, because the new opportunity that you might be leaving your barbershop to go to, it may not work out for you there. I hope it does, but it's nice to have a backup plan. So when I went to go open my barbershop, I definitely tried to leave on good terms, because I was actually fairly convinced that it wasn't going to work. So I thought that if I at least had left on good terms, I didn't try to take any clients of hers. I definitely tried to bring as many of the clients that were really loyal to me with me, but anybody that I saw as that barbershop owner's client, I didn't even let them know that I was leaving, because I thought of that as, this is the business's client. And even now I still have this mindset of this is not my client. This client. I mean, they're none of ours, right? But this is a client for the business, right? Like, I don't care who they go if they don't come back to me, but they go back to a different barber in my shop. That still helps me, right? So I tried to leave on good terms for that reason, and I recommend everybody does that. Now, is that always going to be possible? No. And sometimes shop owners, won't let you stay if you put in your 2-week notice. But I recommend that you at least try to leave on good terms, because you never know, right? You never know if it's gonna work out or not. So that's what I would recommend. If you're not happy with where you're at in your barbershop, if you're a barber that works for somebody else, then you either have to change your mindset, you change your expectations, and try to make it work where you are, or leave. But you have to understand that, like, you might be giving up something, like you're giving up earning potential, giving up control of your schedule, but you're not going to get to a new place by doing the same things. You got to do something new. And that's the hard part, you got to step outside your comfort zone and, realize that on the other side of that hard decision might be something great. But you gotta make a decision, to get there. So hopefully, if you're watching, you found that helpful. There was another question that came up in our community. Let me share my screen again. So Angie, this is a short one, but one thing that I will say is that there are definitely times in our business where they're going to be busier or slower than usual, which is, I think, totally normal, right? But I think, having been a barbershop owner for almost 10 years now, that the skill is making that line a little bit more flat, right? So that each month is a little bit more consistent. No matter what you do, you're still gonna have like peaks and valleys. I shared this little picture that I made because I track everything, and I have been tracking things for probably like 4 or 5 years now, where every single January sucks, right? And I know that December is this huge spike in business, and that's when barbers are like, I'm raising my prices. And then, right? And then January comes around, and then you start seeing these posts like, accepting new clients. Like, of course you are, right? Because you went off 1 month of data to think that you're busy and you thought you're hot shit, but you just happen to be in a busy season, right? And then you see the reality next month when January hits, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm not as busy as I thought, right? And then it goes back up in February, and then it goes back down in March. And then guess what? They're probably going to have a nice month of April. But I can tell you right now that the summertime, at least I'm in Florida, so a lot of the stuff that I say, might not be relevant to other parts of the country. But summertime is historically a pretty slow month for us, a slow time of year. So here, school lets out in May, so next month. So June and July are some of the slowest months of the year for us. But the difference is, in the beginning, when I was first getting started, I didn't know that, right? I didn't track things. I didn't have any experience. So I was freaking out. I was just like, where did everybody go? Did I do something wrong? And now I know. Like, I expect it. I anticipate it. And that's what makes tracking things and having data so powerful, because once you have a few years of numbers under your belt, you can actually look back and see, like, oh, this is normal. Of course it's slow, because it's been the same for the last 5 years, right? And then more importantly, like I mentioned earlier, what you can do is try to get ahead of it, try to anticipate it, and maybe even plan a promotion to get ahead, to make it so it's not as slow, right? So we actually did this, I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before. We knew that the summer was coming. It's the same time every year, guys. Summer is slow almost every single year for us. January is slow almost every single year for us. And then, of course, there's like basically around any major holiday, you're gonna have a spike in business, and then the next week, and then maybe even the next month, it's gonna die, right? So there's a couple things you can do to both short term and long term to help kind of prevent that and make your business a little bit more stable. Okay. So one thing that we did was it was, like I said, it was either last year or the year before. We knew, or we thought, that January or that June and July were going to be slow as fuck, right? So what we did two things. We shortened the hours of the shop. So we went from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. That was our old hours. And when we shortened it, we went from 10 a.m. We went from 9 opening at 9 to opening at 10. So we shortened the hours. And that, so because whenever you have a low productivity, so I would define like, or being slow, as they say in our industry, right? I look at it as productivity or utilization. So if we're like less than 70% booked, I would consider that pretty slow. So knowing that that was about to happen, we came up with a plan and we said, hey, we are going to shorten our hours. We're going to call these our summer hours, right? And then maybe after the summer, we can go back to our normal hours of, 9 to 7. We ended up keeping the hours the same because the barbers didn't want to go back to working, longer days. But we did that in anticipation of being slow. So these are the kind of things that you can do because you can predict things when you track stuff. So first step is tracking everything. Have a software that tracks all this stuff for you. And then use that. Like that's some of the most powerful data you can have in your business is like when you actually track your stuff. Because it's one thing to track it, it's another thing to understand it, and then it takes it a step further to be able to influence it. So those are like the 3 stages I think of an entrepreneur. So if you're not even tracking the numbers, then start doing that, right? Once you start tracking it, the real skill is going to be interpreting it, like understanding it. Like what do these numbers even mean, right? Because the business doesn't speak English. It speaks in numbers. So you have to be able to take that data and interpret it into something that you can actually use, that you can communicate to the barbers, that you can convert that data into action. Like, okay, what does that mean that I have to do, right? And then the last step, I think, is to be able to influence. So you know what the numbers are, you understand what goes into those things, and now you can actually influence those things or even prevent them, right? So so another thing that we did, so we shortened our hours for the summer, and then we actually came up with a promotion, which ended up being probably the most successful promotion we've ever done. I don't actually know that it makes sense numbers wise, but we did end up having like, at least to date, that was our highest sales month ever. In what was supposed to be one of the slowest months of the year, we actually ended up having our best month ever. So what we did was we said, your haircut is free if you spend $60 or more on products. So naturally that promotion crushed, right? Because the theory behind this was people value products, like physical things, more than services. I know that hurts our egos as barbers to hear that, but I've found it to be true. People have no problem spending $60, we found, and it was often more than that because it was hard to find products that added up to exactly 60, so it ended up being like 65, 70. We actually found that people had no problem dropping $60, $70 on products, but if we tried to charge that for a haircut, oh man, we would get so much shit, right? Which is weird because they can get the same products on Amazon. So that promotion crushed for us. So the combination of like shortening our hours because in anticipation of being slow, and with that promotion, because products are, at least the way we price them, like way more profitable than services. So we actually ended up having one of our best months ever in what was supposed to be one of our slowest months of the year, with one promotion and one change to our hours. So that's just like one example of something that you can do when you know like there's a slow time coming. So so that's like short term though, like promotions, things like that. Now long term, we actually have found that we don't really have slow months anymore. We have, of course, we have slow days and maybe slow weeks. But long term, actually, what I think is helping to kind of level out our sales is our membership program. So clients, we have a little over 500 people in our membership program, 500 active members as of when I checked, a few days ago. So we have a little over 500 people paying us every single month to get a haircut. And so naturally, if somebody is paying to get a haircut every month, they're going to come in. Well, not actually, because one thing I just learned a couple of days ago was about half the people, 50% of the people that are paying us monthly for a haircut aren't even using it. So that was not something I anticipated. And honestly, not even something that I want. But it was just kind of an unintended, unexpected benefit of offering a membership program was that, last month we made about $10,000. Actually, it was $15,000 in pure profit from people that paid for our membership but didn't even use it. So I don't know of another way in this industry to make 100% pure profit without doing any work other than memberships. Maybe gift cards. Yeah, gift cards is one way to do it. You could charge deposits on services, but you do have to, they're all liabilities at the end of the day. Like that's an accounting term because people are giving you the money up front. And at some point, you got to give something in return, right? So it's not like it's pure profit and our credits roll over so that it's not like they paid for it and they're never going to be able to use it again. But yeah, just last month, we had over 500 people, like 512 or something, paid for our membership, and only about half of them actually used it. So that equated to about 15,000 or so in profit just from unused memberships. So those are just two tactics right there from just that one post in our school group where you can get ahead of slow times. But first you got to know that they're coming. And I can just tell you that like the week after or even the month after a holiday, going to be slow. So plan for it. Plan a promotion and also rebooking, right? So if you know a slow time's coming, you may want to incentivize your barbers, or if you're independent, like do it for yourself, right? Rebook people, right? Get them to come back, right? Because next month is going to be slow, so try to get as many people booked for next month as possible. Don't let them leave without an appointment. You can give them an incentive. What I like to do is, because it also limits our cost, rather than giving everybody something to rebook, for example, in this case, you could be like, so everybody that rebooks gets entered into a drawing, and we'll randomly pick one client that rebooked to win this whatever, right? So I love that, the raffle style giveaways, because it limits your cost, like it caps your cost. With if you give everybody something, then that's that can get expensive. But I could say I can buy something that's $100 or $200 value, and that's the most it'll ever cost me. Like and not everybody's getting it, and we're only gonna pick one winner, right? So I don't know, just some pieces of advice there that just know that slow times are normal in our business. The real skill is when you know that they're coming and you can try to reduce it or even eliminate slow times altogether, right? Because there's more than one way to make money in our industry. Haircuts are just one way, but you can also sell products. You can also sell memberships. You can also sell gift cards. You can do add-on services, right? There's other ways to make money besides just haircuts. So if you're having a slow time in the shop, think about the other ways you can make money, because you're not going to be able to do more haircuts if there aren't people walking in getting their haircut. So yeah, so let's go back. Let me share my screen again, and then I'll kind of share one last point, which is this one right here. So I get asked about this a lot, right? And I'm gonna try to like make this as simple as possible, because I'm probably gonna end up doing a full YouTube breakdown on this for my YouTube channel. If you guys aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. It's Alex J the Barber on YouTube. It's free. I make this content for you guys. I don't do it for me. I don't get nothing from this. So I'll probably do a deep dive on this particular topic on YouTube sometime in the near future, because a lot of people have asked me about what is the right amount of commission to pay a barber, like specifically talking to, I talk to a lot of barbershop owners. And the honest answer is that it depends on your business. There is no right number that I can tell you that's going to apply to every situation. So here's just a few factors to consider when you're trying to figure out how to pay a barber if you have a barber shop, right? And I'll talk about the barber side in a second. That's a lot easier, right? But as far as the barbershop owner side, the first thing you need to consider is what's your goal, right? If you want to grow, scale, go more locations, you need to be very profitable, right? If you don't, and you just want to use this business as like an ATM to fund your lifestyle, well, great. Then you don't need to worry about profit as much. So that's the first thing you need to consider. If this is just a lifestyle business for you, you're treating it like an ATM, then you can maybe afford to pay your barbers a higher commission, because you don't need a ton of extra profit to grow, if that makes sense, right? Another thing to consider is whether you have employees or 1099 independent contractors, because what a lot of barbershop owners and barbers don't consider is that the reason why the guy down the street can pay 50-50 or 60-40 or even 70-30, like the comments on this post, is because they're 1099 contractors. There's no way you can pay somebody even 50% commission or more when you have employees, because right away you have to add 15% on top of that. So, and what I'm talking about is like relative to revenue, right? So I'm talking about 50% or so of all revenue, we'll say, is just the barber's cut. And if they're an employee, if they're a W-2 employee, then you have to add at least 5 to 10% on top of that just for payroll tax. In our case, we also have medical insurance, dental insurance. We have a 401k with a company match. We offer paid time off. And there's a lot of other shit that's probably not included in that. So if you have employees, like in my case, there's no way I can afford to pay 60-40 or 70-30. Like that, I would be out of business. And the reason I know is because I actually did it. Like that's how we started. I started at 60-40, and then I went to 70-30 because I felt bad that I was taking so much from the barbers. And then we switched to employees from 1099 to employees, and I was like, everything was gone. It was like 80% or so of our revenue was going to payroll, because I didn't account for that huge increase that happened in just from adding the payroll tax in there. Not even offering benefits at that time. Just the payroll tax alone increased our payroll cost from, let's say, 70% to like 80. So I was like, that almost put us out of business doing that. So, and I think this is maybe what puts a lot of barbershop owners out of business, is not understanding the things that I just said just now. And this may be one of those videos that you need to go back and rewatch, because I know the first time I started hearing about this stuff that I didn't really understand it the first time I heard it. Because I was told that you want to keep your payroll cost somewhere between 30 to 35% of revenue, right? And some of you guys may not understand what I just said, but that doesn't mean that you can only pay your people 30%. What that means is relative to the revenue of the barbershop, what the barbers get paid, just their salaries, cannot exceed 30 to 35%. Now, that doesn't include the other stuff I mentioned. We're talking about payroll tax, benefits. Let's just say payroll tax and cost of benefits, because that adds another 15%. So then you also have to take into account, now that's just what the barbers get paid and what it costs to pay them. There's also other expenses associated with running the business. Payroll cost is by far the biggest cost usually in our business. Rent is like nothing. Like in our case, rent is like less than 7% of revenue. So this is how, the way I'm speaking right now is typically how the most seasoned business owners talk, is in terms of how does it relate to revenue, right? So you can pay your people 40% commission, 50% commission, as long as it's a healthy range for your business. So the real answer to this question of how much can you pay a barber in terms of commission, ultimately the real answer is do the math. Like, you have to factor in all the expenses of running your business, your rent, your utilities, your phone, your insurance. If you're going to spend money on marketing, you got to factor that in too. You're going to spend money on professionals like coaching or accountants or whatever. Got to factor that into. Maintenance, because ship breaks, you got to factor that into. Credit card fees, the cost of buying products, like all of these things. You have to factor all that in. And then you see, like, that's how much it actually takes to run your business. And if you want to pay your barbers 50-50 or 60-40, and the numbers still work, go ahead and do it, And also, I think that in terms of profit, right, I define profit as what's left over after everything is paid. So I think that you want to shoot for, if you're making less than, I would say, 10 to 20% profit, like after you're paid as a business owner, that's not, some people define profit as like what the owner gets paid. I don't look at it that way. I look at, this is what's left over after I get paid, after all the barbers get paid, and after all the bills get paid. That's what I think about as far as profit, right? That, I think, a healthy range should be somewhere between 10 to 20%. If it's less than that, then you either have to increase revenue or decrease cost, or both. That's the only way to really increase profit, is increase revenue, make more money, or decrease cost. I don't know how you can create profit otherwise. And you could find another revenue stream, right? So this is why products, I think, are really important in our business. Barbers hate selling products, but the reality is you can pay your people more commission-wise if they also sell products, right? Because it's all, like I said, it's all relative to revenue. If you want to pay your people really well, then you have to generate a lot of revenue and keep that payroll cost under control. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself out of business. And most people don't realize this until it's too late, like I did. But I'm still here because I learned these things. And the reason why I do this is so that you guys don't have to learn it the hard way, like I did. But I don't think I've never heard of a barbershop that pays more than 50% commission where those people aren't 1099 contractors. And a lot of them operate illegally because they treat them like employees, but they pay them like contractors. But my barbers are employees. So there's no way I can pay that much, but I make up for it in other ways. They have healthcare, they have dental, they can take time off and still get paid, right? So that's how I choose to operate. Because also not everybody's motivated by the same things. Some people will take a little bit less of a paycheck if it means that they got healthcare, or that they can save for retirement, or they can be off, right? They can just be off. They don't have to worry about their business. They don't have to worry about marketing themselves because, like, I got you, So, I mean, that's the ultimate answer to this question of should you pay a barber commission-wise? You just do the math. You make a little spreadsheet or do the hand math, factor in all the costs of running your business, and then put what you want to pay the barbers there, and see if the numbers work and build in some profit, 10-20% minimum after you pay yourself as the owner. And if those numbers make sense, then do it. If it doesn't, go back to the drawing board. But I think that this is what gets a lot of barbershop owners in trouble, is that they're afraid to do math, right? This is the only way to know the true answer, because what works for me may not work for you. Every business is different. I love the idea of paying barbers as much as possible, but I have made the mistake of letting my payroll costs get out of control. So I don't want you guys to make that mistake. This is why I'm answering this question, right? So yeah, that was a question that was posted in our school group. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, this is our school group right here. It's free. I also have, another factor that's really important in making sure that your business is profitable is pricing your haircuts appropriately. So in our other group, in our other school group, which is not free, it's called the Barbershop Owner Mastermind. And in this group is where I actually have a course on how to price your haircuts, which right here. I talk about, it's a 6-part course, and I have a calculator, and I have a survey that you can send to your clients to figure out the right way to price your haircuts. Ultimately, just like with payroll costs, there is no right way, there is no right haircut price. You got to do the math. Like, figure out how much it costs to run your business, factor all your costs in there, add a margin to it, like you do with products. You do the same thing with products. You buy it for 10, sell it for 20, that $10, that's your profit, right? You got to do the same thing with haircuts. Like, how much did that hour or that half hour cost? Add a profit margin to it, that's your price. And I talk about how to do that in this course. And if you don't want to, if you do the math and you don't find that is a number that you want to charge, that's fine. But then you need to figure out either how to lower your costs or how to cut hair faster. And guess what? I have a course on that too. So that, and there are a ton of other courses, as you can see, right? So I'm going to probably end the call for today. I don't see any questions in the chat. So hopefully you guys enjoyed my little rant here. Next week we'll do another Q&A. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing these, to be honest. I might change the time, but if you guys have any questions, join my community, 100% free. The link to it is in my bio, wherever you're watching this, or you can comment on any one of my Instagram posts, comment the word guide, and it'll automatically send you my auto thing will automatically send you a free goodie, and it'll send you the link to the group that I pulled up on the screen throughout this call. So hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.